Oh, good morning, good afternoon, good night. Not too happy today because I was sent a video and it was depicting 5 policemen assaulting a black man, unarmed. And what happened is a very, very short clip, so I'm going to show it to you, but it really is short because what happened is the person who was filming it, they shut the door on him. Rather than stop what they were doing when they realised they were being caught, instead, they shut the door on him and continued with what they were doing. So goodness knows what state that person's in. Now, I'm going to show you the film. I'm going to show it to you again because just in case you didn't get to see it, because it is very, very short. Now, regardless of what that person has done, you cannot tell me that that is not a biased attack. You cannot tell me that that is not excessive force. The man hasn't got any weapons. He's unarmed. 5 policemen, and look how big they are, and look how small his frame is. And rather than stop when they realised they were being filmed, they continued. You know, the thing is with reasonable force and excessive force, it's all subjective. You can use force to defend yourself. And some people can imagine what degree the force is that's coming towards them. So a lot of times when white people see black people, they're 5 times more afraid when they're confronted by a black person than they are when they're confronted by a white person. It's to do with lack of knowledge, it's to do with lack of understanding, it's to do with lack of knowledge of their culture, it's to do with a lot of things. It's got to do with their perception of black people being aggressive, being strong, whatever it is. So instead of conducting that procedure in a professional way, because even if he had committed a crime, what they should be doing is handcuffing him. There's 5 men there, handcuffing him and taking him down to the police station. They should not be in there hitting him with sticks and doing what else they were doing to him. That is excessive force. That is corporal punishment. They are dishing out what they feel they think that man deserves. I don't know what he did. Some people say that he attacked the police. I don't know. Regardless of what the crime is, they have a duty of care to administer the law in the correct way. What a bad example. What does that do to the few good cops there are out there? We're supposed to look to the police as people we can trust, as people we can approach, as people who are fair, as people who are just. And we know from Stephen Lawrence to lots of different examples, we know that the police there's many police who are biased, who are prejudiced and who are racist, and they use the uniform to abuse their power. We know that. And when you see it caught on camera like that, it kind of reminds us what kind of world we live in. Sometimes we think those days are done. We think that they're gone. And then we see a film like that and it's a constant reminder that this world is not fair, that this world still has its prejudices and biases. And it is all over the world. But it's such a shame that it's people who are in power and who are meant to be colourblind who are behaving in that way. Now, when they talk about reasonable force versus excessive force, there's this case called The Crown and Lindsay. And 4 men intruded on a guy in his home and apparently they were brandishing guns, and he took up a sword and chopped one of them to pieces, literally to pieces. And he was prosecuted, and he did 8 years. They said he used excessive force. Now, some people say, oh, why is that excessive force when there was 4 of them, they had guns, and he was one man and he chopped up one man. The thing is that when you're thinking about excessive force, you're thinking about the degree to which that force is dished out. And okay, there had to have been a point when that man was dead. There had to have been a point when that guy couldn't do anything else. It is that at that point when you have disabled someone that you are supposed to stop, that it becomes unreasonable. You don't keep chopping up somebody after they're already dead or after they're disabled. At that point, you're supposed to stop. So he did 8 years, and people don't understand why he got done for doing that. And that is what self-defense is about. It's about being reasonable in protecting yourself. If somebody comes at you, if he had, say, for example, shoved that sword in his heart and killed him, I believe he would have got off, because that was one stab wound. One. And it just so happened the guy died. But to chop somebody up into pieces, that is excessive. The same way to have five police officers beating one unarmed man, that is unreasonable force, and it's excessive, and they should be prosecuted for that. They are supposed to be upholders of the law, and they're not upholding the law. If anything, I just get so angry and upset when I see things like that. You know, abuse of power. I wanted to, like they said, there's no specific definition for reasonable force. It depends on the circumstances. If you did what you honestly thought was necessary at the time, this would provide strong evidence that you acted within the law. And that's the problem. That's the problem, because when you're defending yourself, it's subjective. What you perceive to be a threat or a harm is subjective. So if he chopped him up into pieces, I don't know if he did that hoping that he was going to ward off the other 3. I don't know. And if that was the case and they had a gun, why didn't they just shoot him? I don't understand. There's something a bit fishy going on there. But there's also something about entrapping somebody, like what those police did, cornering him and then beating them. All of that is unlawful. It's unlawful force. You can't do that. There was something I wanted to read out. Yeah, reasonable force can be used to prevent the unlawful detention of yourself or someone else. But the victim, well, no, that was my little bit. That victim didn't stand much chance. An individual may protect themselves, i.e. use violence on another, as long as that force is reasonable. And it overlaps the criminal law with the common law. Statutory rights are considered first because the statutory right is broader in scope because it is used in the prevention of crime. So yeah, those police can use their statutory rights to use force on that gentleman. If he was committing a crime, if he was hitting and running, if he was attacking police, yes, they can use a certain amount of force to hold him. But they weren't doing that. It's not like he was fighting and they were trying to handcuff him and he was fighting them. No, it wasn't like that. He was just there and they were hitting him. Or beating him, I should say. It wouldn't surprise me if they were hoping that he was an illegal immigrant so they could deport his ass. But maybe he was a legitimate person that didn't have any criminal record, and that's why they want to criminalise him. I can't understand why they would behave like that. Unless it is, thank God for cameras. Thank God for that guy who filmed that. Because at least at the moment they're undergoing investigation. I don't know what's going to come out of it. And I don't even want to belabor it too long, because it's I mean, for me, I think it's unreasonable force. You might think it's reasonable if you knew the background. I don't know. But from what we see one person and 5 police officers, and we see him locked in a corner with them, you know, having a go at him. And to me, that's enough to tell me that that's unreasonable force. And I hope the Crown Court sees it as such, and they get done for it. Most police officers don't, even when it goes to their courts of appeal or whatever. They hardly ever get done for their crimes. But, you know, and especially it being a black guy, they'll find some way to justify their behaviour. But the fact of the matter, it is on camera. So I don't see how they can get out of this one. And that's all for now. Bye-bye.